Okay. Wow, the numbers they went fast. Whoa! Hey,
Okay.
hello everybody.
Amazing. What cool.
Wow, absolutely. Thank you for coming today. The names went so fast I didn't get a chance to say, but thank you each and every one of you. You are valued. Okay, and I want you to
Amazing.
know that. Okay, absolutely. So today, I am honored to have Fiona Leonard here with me today. I'm sorry for that. Give me in 1 second, please. Okay. I have Fiona Leonard here with me today. All right. She is an author. She's a writer of plays and screenplays. She's also the creator of the feminist walking tour and the founder of Blue Goat Theater. Okay. Fiona has two Substack publications. One is Women Adjacent and The Mustering. Okay? I discovered Fiona during a live conversation she was having with Gail K on January 4th. And they were having a discussion about reinvention is real. Okay? So today, Fiona and I are going to be talking about bridging the divide. Okay? So from here, Fiona, why don't you talk to us more about your evolution as a leader and what brought you to Substack?
Oh, what brought that? So many questions there. Well, thank you. Firstly, thank you so much for having me. It's lovely to be able to have this conversation and to follow on from the original conversation that I had with Gail, which was really lovely. What brought me to Substack? I was in the blogging world decades ago, and really enjoyed that as a space. And then I went and did all the other all the other sort of social media spaces. And then around the beginning of last year, I decided it was time that I wanted to come off Facebook. I wanted to come off Instagram because I was seeing a lot of things that were happening particularly around the beginning of last year, a lot of information that was coming out around what was happening in those spaces, particularly around young women and young girls. And a lot of what the work that I do has a real feminist focus. With the feminist walking tour. And it was that thing of like, how do I be in spaces where I bring people into those spaces and effectively, say, okay, I think they're okay. Um, Full disclosure, we still have a feminist walking tour Instagram account because it's one of the few places of getting people to come along on the tour. But it was a case of like trying to find a different space where I could talk at greater length about things and really go into discussion around issues that I really cared about, and get back into blogging and get back into long form and being able to write more and explore more. So beginning of last year, spent a bit of time dipping my toe in. And I like to say I spent a lot of last year throwing spaghetti at the wall, trying lots of different things, writing about different things, seeing what worked and also what was useful. So Women Adjacent really evolved out of a lot of work I've been doing in theatre spaces of looking, and it sort of relates to the feminist walking tour as well, because it's how do we tell stories about women in history? How do we put women back into the historical narrative? How do we tell stories about women who have been placed adjacent to history? So I can talk about that more at length. And then the mustering, as you mentioned, is a space for really supporting new writers. And there's daily writing prompts go out and information about writing in those spaces. So that's a very long introduction, but I hope that sort of introduces where I'm at and why I'm here.
Yeah, so you're passionate about writing. You're an author and like I said, a writer of plays and screenplays. And then you have the walking tour and then the mustering. So
And books.
how do you find How do you find the time to do all these things?
Um, well, I've been doing this for a long time. I published my first novel in 20, well, I self-published my first novel back in the Wild West days of self-publishing back around 2009, 2010, I think. I self-published my second novel and then sold that to Penguin Random House in 2013, I think. So I've been in those sort of spaces. I actually got into writing plays and getting into theatre as a way of getting better at writing dialogue in my novels. And then I started doing theatre. I started writing plays and went, oh wait, I love theatre. I love writing, and oh, how logical! I should be doing more theatre. And then when I moved to Germany, I started getting more and more involved in theatre here. The pandemic, oddly enough, was a real kickstart for doing a lot of things, because I think it was a sort of bit of a coping mechanism. So as soon as everything shut down, it was two things. One, it was, I need to do something. What can I do? And so I created a 24-hour festival that we ran 5 festivals over the course of 2020. What do we have? Something like 98 people from 20 countries, created 35 new pieces of work over the course of that year. But I just sort of, it was actually really interesting, because when the pandemic happened, it was almost like, oh, well, there's no gatekeepers now and it doesn't really matter, and I'll just do what I want to do. And as always happens when you just do what you want to do, you end up doing the things that you love and people connect with it. And so, yeah, from 2020 onwards, I really got on a bit of a treadmill, not a treadmill that sounds like it's, I don't want to be here. I got into a real rhythm of really getting into the flow. And so I've been writing a lot since 2023, 4 novels, about a dozen short plays, and then some longer screenplays. So yeah, it's been busy. It's been great. Fantastic time. I've really had a lovely time. And this month, yeah, I think February, my first comic is coming out in a comic book with Dren Publications, with the lovely Mike Dolce, who has been incredible supporter. Yeah, so I'm very excited. I've never done a comic before, so yeah, very cool.
It seems that your leadership evolution it 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 includes a lot of creativity. Okay, and it seems like that you're in tune with yourself. You know who you are. You know what you want, and you're a real go getter, scrappy, and you go out and get it. Right.
Yeah, yeah. Scrappy's a good word. Yeah, I think scrappy's sometimes scrappy is a little is that has that air of desperation when, when we have to pay rent, and you go out and find the work that helps pay the rent. Because I think this is one of the things I really enjoyed seeing on Substack lately, is a lot of people talking about the myth of the writer, like, oh, you publish a novel and then you're set and you're going to be a writer for life, and that will pay the bills. And it's just rubbish. Like, being a writer, you have to have a portfolio career. You have to have other jobs that you're doing to support your writing career. And I've never been good at staying in one box. Like, I don't want to just write books. I love writing screenplays. I love writing for theatre. I love writing novels. Yeah, so I like I like doing these different things, and when I get opportunities to try something, then I will. I actually, it's funny how I wrote a limited series last year, and with a company that I do some work with, and I was talking to at one stage, I was doing a bit of a hustle, saying, do you have any work? I'm looking for work at the moment. And they said, oh, we've got some projects, but they only have back end money. We don't have anything up front. So would you be interested in that? And I was like, sure. And they said, well, what do you want to work on? Because we've got all these different things. And I said, well, why don't you give me something I don't know how to write? And I could sort of hear the words coming out of my mouth, and I was like, well, we'll see what happens. And the guy was like, oh, great. Have you ever written a limited series? I'm like, no, I've never written a limited series. And he was like, great. Do you want to have a go at this? So I think a lot of times it's just asking. Like, people can always say no. Like, he could have just said, we only want someone who's written a limited series. But yeah. he gave me the opportunity. I wrote it. It's really good. I love it. They're happy. And so, yeah, now I've written a limited series. So I'm very proud of myself.
Check.
Thank you.
I love that because I worked with the military for 39 years and I was stifled.
Yeah.
You have to follow this rules and regulation and these standards. You have to do it this way, our way. Even though you can do that work in a number of ways,
Yeah.
okay? Because I'm a systems thinker. I can figure out, oh, this is a shorter way to do that. And I can do it this way because that way I'm saving time. If I save time, that means that I can do additional work, okay? If you just let me do it my way, okay? Say for example, I hire a contractor, okay? I'm going to tell him what I want him to do, okay? I'm not going to specify how he does it or what materials he should use. But we may have that conversation because I wanted to use sustainable materials and I don't want you to have to come back here in a month to fix something else. Okay. So I want to be clear about that part and about how much it's going to cost and how long it's going to take you to do this job so you can get in and out as quickly as
Yeah.
possible. Okay. So yeah, we have to take all of these things in consideration. And based on your expertise, you do the same thing. You've
Yeah.
written plays, you wrote books, you did all of these different things. So you know what steps that shortcuts that you can take to get the results that you want.
Yeah. Well, I'd say two of the biggest shortcuts are practice and perseverance. Like, really. Um, I write really fast. That was one of my superpowers. But that's because I've been writing for 30 years. And particularly for the last 5, 6 years, I show up, I keep writing, I keep making things, I keep putting it out there. One of the best things I actually did when I first moved to Germany, I was trying to find community and to find a connection of people to sort of help me settle into the city. And so I started going to a writing group, and they met every Saturday. We go along, you get a writing prompt, you write for 20 minutes. And I showed up every Saturday for 2 years, and it was fascinating because I really discovered that process of, like, sitting down, writing for 20 minutes on a prompt that I hadn't chosen, all of this other side of writing just suddenly appeared. I was writing about completely different topics. It was a lot darker. I was writing, crime stuff, just things that I didn't write back when I was like, these are the things I am meant to write. And so those 2 years of just showing up every single week, I got really good at writing fast. I got really good at creating full arcs of stories. And I look back on that time with such gratitude because so many of the skills that I have now really date back to that period of just showing up for my writing and letting whatever wanted to come out. It's funny, actually, I mentioned the comic book. One of the basis for the comic is actually a short story that I wrote during that time that's got recycled now and repurposed into something else. So yeah, it's very cool.
Yeah, and that's very key that we already have a lot of material we've already produced.
Yeah,
We could just the days that you don't feel like writing, you can repurpose that material.
yeah,
Maybe you'll add something in addition to what you've
yeah,
already done.
yeah,
And it's just take one little step to just improve what we already
yeah,
have.
yeah.
Okay?
Or
Yeah.
repurpose it
So
into a different format. Like, this is taking a short story, it's now a comic. I've got other stuff that's been a play. I wrote a three book series, 3 novel series about assassins, and that's now been turned into a play. Into a screenplay. So it's, yeah, taking material and how do you, rather than keeping reinventing the wheel, how do you take something, put it into a different space, or even just pick an idea out of it. I was saying to you before we started, I did a workshop this week with a group of students. And what I was getting them to do, we did a whole lot of exercise at the beginning and then got them to write for 20 minutes. And I said to them, I'm not going to make you read the whole thing out. What I want you to do at the end is to just underline one sentence that you really like. And then if anybody wants to read that out, they can. Because I was saying to them that we have this thing that we write, we have this belief that you write something down and all of it has got to be amazing. But the reality is that finding good work is actually throwing out all the stuff that's rubbish and having the confidence to just throw stuff away. And sometimes it really comes down to, I love this sentence or I love these 3 words. That's my voice. That's what I want to build from. And sadly, I've got to get rid of these 2 pages of writing that I've also written. But I think that's, going back to the secrets of what makes good writers, it's having the courage to throw stuff away and having the courage to say, I can write, this is who I want to be, this little bit here, and I can build on that. And you have to keep sort of wading through all the rubbish and accept that, I'm where I am and all the stuff that I've written, I still throw a lot away. I'm always editing and cutting stuff out, but you can't edit a blank page. That old adage, it stands true. I don't know who said it in the first place, but it's so true.
Let me say this to you. Sometimes I look at something and I say, this is trash. I'll send it out anyway, and I'll get a bunch of likes on there. And I said I thought it was trash, but somebody liked it. One man's trash is another man's treasure. That's why we have thrift stores. Okay? I don't want it. I'm throwing it away. But somebody else in need of it can utilize it. So I don't think we should necessarily throw it away if we think it's no good, because you might have had a manuscript. You say, this is trash. I've seen it happen. They say it's trash, and then somebody else take it. Oh my God, no, this is wonderful. No.
Yeah.
So I think before you throw something away, I think you should have a second or maybe a third opinion.
Well, what I usually do is I always create, like when I'm working on a novel, I always create a document called outtakes. And everything that I cut out, I put in there, and then it's sitting there. And so later on, if I'm stuck, I'll often go back and trawl through it and go, yeah, I don't like that, but that sentence there, that can come back in. So yeah, I think though, what you're going back to saying, sending out something that feels like trash, I suspect that often in those sort of situations, what we send out that we think that, as you describe as trash, I think sometimes those are the things that it's stuff that we feel that it's not stuff that we feel that we should be writing. It's often something that's off at a tangent. And you're like, I'm not sure if this is who I'm meant to be, or this is like what I should be saying. And often then that sort of thing connects and you go, oh, okay, it is okay. All right. Let me explore that sort of path. So I would argue whether it is actually trash that you're sending out. I would wonder whether it's maybe just it's language that you're experimenting with, or ideas that you're experimenting with.
Yes, because I suffer from imposter syndrome. So a lot of times I think that what I'm sending out is really not that great. Other people like it. So I'm like, okay. So that's why I said what I said to you. Okay, because when people tell you you're not good enough or you're trash and you're never going to be nothing, as I experienced in my childhood, and that still sticks with me today. And that's one of the reasons why I waited for so long before I started writing, because I didn't think anybody would be interested in what I had to say or to write, much less write about.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a lot of times we need to get out of our own way and just stop overthinking, stop overanalyzing, and just write.
Yeah.
And from this place, you will find your voice. We have to find our voice. I didn't have a voice because I wasn't allowed to talk. You have to be quiet. We don't care what you have to say. Once you find your voice, your unique voice, then the words will come.
Yeah. Well, I think also It's very easy to forget that writing is a conversation, that what I write goes out into the world and people interpret it in completely different ways. I really, if you'll indulge me on a quick story, I had done a play. This is almost 10 years ago, and a few months later, I was at a party and this woman came up to me and she said, "Oh, I loved your play, 100 Mothers." And I was like, "Oh, that's great." And she goes, "Yeah, there's this one passage that I absolutely love." And so she quoted this passage back and she said, "Yeah, I told my sister and it really relates to this." And she told this whole long story about how those particular words had touched her. And we talked for a bit and then she walked off. And one of the other women who was standing next to me, she looked at me and she went, "What was that about?" And I said, "What do you mean?" And she goes, "There was something like in the way that you reacted, like I could see there was something about the way you were listening to her." And I said, "Oh, well, what's interesting is that what she quoted back to me is not really anything like what's in the play. She'd come up with her own version of it." And this woman said to me, like, "Why didn't you tell her that it was the wrong lines?" And I'm like, "Because it's not my play anymore. Once I put it out into the world, someone else takes it and they have an experience with it and they have a relationship with it. And I'm not going to take that away from her. She had this very beautiful experience that she really enjoyed. She was very happy with. That's fine. That's now her experience of the play." And this is one of the reasons why I love doing theatre, because I'll write a play and then I'll put it out and I'll start work. I direct a lot of my own plays. So I'll start working with actors and they'll come back and go, "Oh, can we do this?" Or, "I find this bit really funny." And I'll be like, "Well, it's not funny. I wrote it. That's not funny." They're like, "Oh no, it is funny because if we do it this way, it becomes like this." So I always say it's really interesting when I put bodies inside my words, that then it becomes different. And then you put that in front of an audience. And I've sat in an audience with a show that I've written, that I've directed, and watched an audience react to it in a completely different way to what I would have expected. And it's like, now, because that's now your experience. And so I brought it into this space and now you take it out in a different way and have a different experience with it. And I think that's one of the things with like the algorithm and this, taking words and just throwing it out into the world, that we miss these opportunities to have these connections, to have these discussions, to have this engagement with what we're trying to write. And sometimes it's someone coming back going, "I didn't like it," or "I didn't understand." It's like, okay, well, let's have a conversation about it. Like, why? What didn't you like, or what touched you? And that's when it gets really exciting.
The human connection. And that's
Yeah,
why we're here. Okay?
exactly.
Because right? Because I go into Substack and I look at people's articles, I watch the videos, and I see echoes of my words in everyone's work. And
Yeah,
I am grateful for that because I take some of the things from their work to enhance mine. And that is what makes the world go round. We are this collective. We are working collectively together.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
A- And so that's the beautiful thing about Substack and the world. Okay. If we can continue to uh, do that with each other, we are elevating each other. We're rising together,
yeah,
and we're making magic. And we need to take that uh, same attitude out in the world and
yeah,
to bring more people to the fold, so we can continue to rise uh, as for our impact and our influence, to bring other people in, the younger people, okay? Heaven
yeah.
help them, because when you talk about these screenplays, okay, and plays, it's just taking performance to a whole new level. And so had you thought about, or do you help writers that are interested in potentially writing, comic books, plays, or screenplays? You interested, I mean, mentoring and coaching, or uh, these content creators to explore these different areas?
Yeah, I do. I do it in a couple of different ways. So, um, going back, I mentioned earlier that we did the 24-hour festival back in 2020. And that was so much fun that, like, 2 weeks after we locked down in Germany, we did our first festival. And my whole approach with it was to make it as difficult as possible, which seemed really counterintuitive. But what we did is the first one was bringing together an actor, a writer, and a director. And I made sure that the people were in different parts of the world, that they're in different time zones, that some of them had different languages. So the first one was acting, the second one was dance. We did a visual one. And the whole idea every single time was to keep saying to people, you're matched with someone who's in Ghana, someone who's in Armenia, someone who's in Canada. And look what you made in 24 hours. You made this beautiful, beautiful thing. You met these three people. You saw that even during this shitty time, that you could actually create something beautiful. So a lot of what I do is trying to find, like, how do we find work spaces where you can build community and build community all over the world. So I do, at the moment, I do things like, I was telling you, I did a workshop with a school group here in Germany, which was sort of combining both theatre and writing workshops. And I also do a lot on the mustering. I do a writing group for women. We've got a very small group as a sort of a starter group with the mustering. We've got one woman in Singapore, one in Australia, one in Switzerland, 2 or 3 here in Germany, and they come together once a week to practice storytelling and to practice writing. As actually, I haven't told you about this, but in March, I'm actually starting a new program on the mustering, because I've been doing daily writing prompts on the mustering. I just send them out. You subscribe and you get the free subscription. You get a writing prompt in your inbox every day. But what I'm going to do over March and April is, I was actually working with some young artists at the end of last year, and one of the women said to me, like, how do you even start writing a book? Like, how do you even start thinking and building the ideas? And it really struck me with her question of how much of the sort of talking about writing books or writing films is like when you get your basically your bum in the chair and you actually start writing words, and what's your word count and how many words do you do every day? And a lot of writing is just sitting and thinking. It's looking out the window, it's playing around with ideas, it's doodling, it's brainstorming. So what I wanted to do was create a writing prompt based practice where every day for 30 days, you just get a question that's like, well, what is your character wearing? That's it. You write for 15 minutes and then you put it away. But each day you show up for your story. And each day you start to build the little details, just do the thinking and the playing and the tossing around ideas. And then in the second month, it's just writing scenes like over the arc of what would be a story. And so the first day, you'll literally just spend 15 minutes sketching out the idea for one scene. By the middle of the month, you'll be sketching out what would be the rough midpoint. So that then after 2 months, you end up with a pile of notes, a pile of ideas, a rough sketch that fertilized soil that you can then play with and go away and go, okay, what have I got? What works? What am I enjoying playing with? And then how do I start structuring that into a story? Because there's so much of a rush to, like, you have to get your word count. You have to be doing 1,000 words a day. You have to be really pushing to write 50,000 words in whatever. And we forget that so much of writing is just playing and doodling around, trying to find ideas and experimenting and throwing spaghetti at the wall. So, yeah, so different spaces, different things, trying things out and just like trying to find really good ways to connect with people and help people.
Yes, this has been an amazing conversation. I am a visual person, so I start from that lens. Okay? All right? And I know that in writing, it's important to use all your senses.
Yeah.
Okay? And that way individuals can get into the story from your
No,
go ahead.
I was just going to say, it's when you're talking about senses, one of the things that I love doing, and I was doing with these kids last week, was to say, okay, so we're going to do this experiment, we're going to do this work around imagine things from your senses. And I was like, so you know you have 14 senses, don't you? And they're all
14?
Well, it depends who you ask, because some people will say 21, but
Wow.
an easy is like around 14. And so it's things like temperature, sense of time passing, balance, pain. And the one I always love is sort of saying to them, like, proprioception is a sense, and that you get this beautiful blank looks. And I'm like, okay, close your eyes, put your arms out to the side, now touch your nose. And I'm like, that's proprioception. With your eyes closed, you still know where your nose is. So it's not using any of your other senses. It's just this concept of where your body is in space. So there are all these sort of things like proprioception and kinesthesia. And that's a really fun thing too to bring to storytelling, of saying it's not just the five senses. There's all these other
Okay.
senses that we can play around with. Like, so when you're talking to particular students and saying, use your senses to describe this, like use balance. Like, what's it like walking down the street? What's that sense of movement? How does your body feel? Because, and writing is, because we really get into this space that writing is this cerebral thing, but it's so physical. It has to be that really using your body and that physicality of what is writing like. And so, yeah. Sorry, I get very passionate about this and I wave my arms around.
Yeah, me too, because nothing like the written word. So, in addition to the written word, the spoken word is very powerful too.
Mhm.
So, adding that to the written word, it just enhances our work even more.
Yeah,
Okay, and I've
absolutely.
added that. I've added that, and I try to play with new things. Okay, and I find other ways in which I can keep myself interested, much less my subscribers,
Yeah,
because that's the way my mind works. Okay, because if
absolutely.
you give me, if it's like Groundhog Day, then it loses luster. You know what I'm saying? So if you keep switching things up, and then people are like, oh, I like that. Okay, we got to keep switching it up in our relationships, in our lives, in our workplace is limited. But if we do these things, we enhance the quality of our lives.
Yeah.
Okay, why are we
Well,
here?
I had a student at this workshop last week said to me, like, what do you do about writer's block? And I said, curiosity. And she said, what do you mean? It's like, if I'm stuck, often what I'll do is I'll go to a museum or a gallery and I'll wander around and look at paintings. And every single time it'll be like, scorpion, that solves my problem. Or I'll see some tiny little thing, or I'll read one of the I don't know what you call them, I'll read one of the blurbs. Sorry, my phone's ringing. I'll read one of the blurbs about the painting, and that'll just spark that idea. Like, you have to get out, you have to go into different spaces, you have to take yourself into different areas. There's a great story. I think it's about Edison. He used to do a thing where he set up his whole life so that his work centered around naps. So he had chairs all around his house, and on either side of his chair, he would have these big metal plates. And he would sit in his chair and hold a handful of ball bearings, and then he would have a nap. And when he went into that, I suppose, REM state, his hands would release, he'd drop the ball bearings onto the floor, and he'd wake himself up. And then he'd write down what he was dreaming about at the point when he woke up. And a lot of that sort of fed into his creative process of, so how do I use sleep? How do I use dream spaces? How do I use all of these different ways to play with that creative process?
Absolutely, and I love that, because when we're asleep, our subconscious come alive, and if you can remember that dream,
Yeah.
that could be a story.
Hmm.
Okay,
Hmm.
a lot of my dreams, I wake up because I see myself falling, and I like, I got to wake up. Okay, I don't know where I'm going. So yeah, we have to use all these things. Also, being in nature, sitting at the
Yeah.
beach. Okay, listening to music.
Yeah.
Okay, so sometimes even a conversation with someone can pique some ideas as well.
Yeah. I keep a little stack of scrap paper in my kitchen that I write my shopping lists on. But I'm often, when I'm cooking, I'll listen to podcasts. And I'll hear something interesting, and I'll write it on these bits of paper. So my daughter's always sort of coming and go, "Okay, I bought all the groceries, but what's this quote on the back here?" And I'm like, "Oh, that's a really important thing that I have to remember," but because it's a really cool idea. So my shopping lists often have a sort of philosophical motif on the back.
Also, we see signs, you know, you might see a bird, you might see something that piques your interest too. So all
Yeah,
self-awareness,
yeah.
self-awareness is key. Okay.
But
You know that.
it's interesting going back to like what you were saying at the very beginning of how do we bridge gaps? And I think often we sort of see that, how do we bridge a gap between the creative point and the writing? And it has to be this straight lineal thing, and we have to sit down and you have to be at your desk and you can't move. But often, exactly what you're saying, those bridges are very random. They're creativity, it's curiosity, it's being out in nature and going, oh, that bird, which reminds me of that thing, which reminds me of like, oh, now I know how to solve the thing that I was writing about, which may be completely unrelated, but often bridges, creative bridges aren't necessarily a straight or logical or natural connection. It's often like this leads to this, leads to this, and oh, there it is.
Absolutely. And paying attention to the signs can give us the things that we are right. The things we're looking for is just right under our nose.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Yes. That's where self-awareness come in. So we can see
yeah,
these things and
yeah,
take advantage of them when they appear.
yeah. Absolutely, absolutely. And even sometimes I think it's even just filing them away for future reference, because it may not be something that you use now, but then years later it's like, oh wait, there's that, I got that book on that subject and that reminds me of. Or you meet someone and they tell a story and like, I'll just file that away for that idea, or a sentence or a phrase that can trigger a really cool idea.
Absolutely. A poem, an article, a screenplay,
Yeah,
okay? A book.
yeah,
It can start with just one idea.
yeah. And it's also, I think it's taking the time. This is one of the things, like, is reading, but also reading out of your normal area, your comfort zone. And it's not even comfort zone, of just reading in different areas or different topics, different ideas. A big shout out. I think I saw Mike Soden on Join earlier. He has the most wonderful Substack that is exploring all of these random topics. And one of the things I love about his work is this is a thing that I'm curious about. So come with me on this journey down this rabbit hole, and we're going to explore it. And I think those are some of my favorite Substacks, where it's going off on all these like wonderful random tangents, and you learn all of these things, and because there's spaces that you wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't necessarily go and sign up for a Substack about tectonic plates. But then you read this and he writes so well, and it's like, yes, this is really cool. And this makes me think of all these other things. And so, yeah, I think those are some of the really great Substacks that are really, I have such respect for. There are people on Substack, people like Rogart Historian and um, is it Rose Florence, people who are doing things like, these are women that you don't know about, and this is stuff from history that you don't know, and this is art that you don't know about. That's such a gift. The amount of work that goes into Substacks, it just blows my mind. It really does.
Mine too, because on normal circumstances, you and I would not know each other if it hadn't been for
Yeah.
Substack.
Yeah.
Okay? And I've met so many amazing people. And I'm like, oh my God. And all of these gifts and all this knowledge. I don't even have to pay for a news subscription. And so I don't even watch TV. Okay. Substack is my entertainment. Okay. And I love it. I love it. This has been an amazing conversation. Um, so I don't see that anybody have any questions per se, or any comments. I'm gonna check here. Okay, Millie, thanks. Um, yeah,
Yeah, are
did
there?
you?
That's a good one. Are there any questions of like while you've got us captive? Are there any questions about writing or about creative process? Um,
I don't see that there are, but I'm going to make sure to put your contact information in the article when I post it. Has been amazing
yeah,
conversation, but what I wanted to say was about the writing in general. Um, One of the things they talk about is who is your audience? Who are you writing to? You know what I'm saying? And so today's world, that can be different. Okay.
yeah,
Because I started off talking to women, but men was relating to me because I'm a left brain thinker. I'm a systems,
mm,
systems person. So because of my work with the government. But then I started becoming more vulnerable, and then women was resonating. So I have a melting pot. So I would say the message is clear, the mission and everything is clear because we have common interests and common goals.
yeah. It's so interesting, that thing of like having to narrow down your audience. I found this fascinating when I started doing the feminist walking tour in Düsseldorf. Because I originally got into it because writing is such a solitary experience. I was like, I have to get out and practice talking to people. So I'll go and do some tour guiding. So I would do this tour guiding, and it was working with a company, and I had a script, and it was like, here is the thing that was done by a man and another thing done by a man. And I would just spend 2 hours talking about all the men in history in Düsseldorf. And I was like, surely there's got to be at least one other woman in Dusseldorf's history. So I started doing a whole lot of research. And when I ended up with a spreadsheet with 100 women from history, I was like, I'm going to write my own tour. And it was fascinating when I first started putting it out. I would advertise it on Facebook, and there'd always be a man a bit shouty as like, "Oh, are men allowed to come?" And like, "Well, why is it just?" And I was like, "Of course, men are allowed to come. It's a space to have conversations." And I had so many people in the first probably year or so saying, "You have to take feminist out of the title. No one will come if you call it the feminist walking tour." And I almost took it out, and then one day I actually had a man who did another tour, came on my tour and told me that he was expressly there to steal my content so that he could put it in my tour. And I was like, that's it. It stays feminist walking tour because this is the things that we're fighting against. But I love the space because I will get men come along and they'll go, I've got a question. I was like, amazing, let's answer that question. And it's really like trying to create spaces when people can have conversations, because there's so much just sort of like shouting out into the void. And I love things like walking tours where you can bring a group of people together, you can have information, and then someone goes, but why is this feminist, or why does this happen? Or I had one day, a couple turned up on the tour. We got about 10 minutes in, and she elbows him and says, "Go on, ask her." And I was like, "Okay, ask me what?" And he says, "What do you think about the question of should we separate the art from the artist?" And I was like, "Okay, let's have a conversation about it. Let's come at it from the perspective of art, and sort of, but also, where do you work?" And he's like, "I work in a university." And it's like, "Okay, well, let's put it in that context. Let's take examples from both." And so we ended up just standing. The tour sort of went off into the sidelines a bit, and we just talked for 20 minutes about this topic, and tossed around ideas, and having spaces where you can have those sort of conversations, and say like, this is why I call it feminism. These are the issues that we would call feminist issues that have really shaped this city. And let's have a conversation about it. And some of them don't have good answers. Some of them are really crispy. Some of them are messy. But let's have a talk. Let's have a conversation about it. So I like those sort of spaces. I like that. I like when you can have those sort of conversations on Substack, and really pick at these things and poke at them and go, well, what do you think? Oh, I'd never thought about that. Well, like, oh yeah, I really like this approach. So, bridges again,
Wow.
bridges to to topics and ideas.
Right. That's why I love these conversations, because we get so much value from them. We come away with a lot of value,
Yeah.
and you have a lot of expertise and a lot of knowledge. And so we both do. So as long as the blood is running warm in my veins, I want to be able to express and give back what
Yeah.
has been given to me. I wouldn't be where I am today without people like yourself and other people who have came in my path and helped me. Bad and good. There was always
Yeah.
a lesson to be learned from it.
Can I tell you a really great thing that I love to do with a group of people? Can be with people that you don't know, or it can be if you go out to dinner. Next time you go out to dinner with a group of people, go around the group and ask everybody to tell a story about someone who has really helped them on their creative journey. So someone who's been a mentor or something like that along the way. Can be really small, can be a teacher, or can be family, or whatever. And then what you do, and this is the really important part, is once the person has told the story, everybody picks up their glass and then you toast to that person. So it's Margaret's, great Uncle Bill, and everybody goes to Margaret's great Uncle Bill. And it's such a beautiful experience because it reminds everybody that there was at least one person who helped them on the way. You hear these beautiful stories about people that you didn't necessarily know. And also it's this beautiful energy of everybody going to Uncle Bill, to Cousin Mary, to that random person in the street who gave me $20. And the energy around that is just so much fun. It's so lovely. So that's a drinking game I can highly recommend.
Yes, I agree. And I during my military career, I went to Germany. I
Mhm.
worked for the Corps of Engineers, and those
Okay.
walking tours you're talking about, I went on those Volksmarches. Okay,
Wow.
and yeah, I didn't ever go to what you call that. What you call you have every year where everybody come in, drink, and all of that stuff. And
Carnival. It's happening right now. It's Carnival week in Germany.
okay, y'all got that beer, got those hops in it. You drink a couple of cups of that, you'll be under the table. Okay.
Oh, you're talking about Oktoberfest. That's at the other end of the
Oktoberfest,
yeah.
exactly.
That's a whole
Oktoberfest.
other experience. That's a whole other drinking game.
Okay, off the scene. Okay, so yes, I enjoyed my time in Germany
Thank you.
because
Yeah.
it was beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful. Okay,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So
It's a beautiful country. It really is.
it is. So I didn't see that anybody had any questions per se, and this has been an amazing conversation.
Yeah, thank you so much
Yeah, Leona, thank
for
you.
creating the space for it and holding space for it. It's lovely.
Absolutely. That's what we're about. Okay. And so perhaps we can have a future conversation. Okay. I would love that.
Very nice. Be very nice. Okay, so maybe to finish up, who's your person? Tell me a story about someone who helped you on your journey. Who was a mentor or someone who believed in you and helped you get to this point?
There are so many people. I can't even count them on two hands.
Nice.
Okay. And
There's a lot
I'm
of
grateful
people.
for that. I
Yeah.
am. I'm grateful for that. Yes. I'm blessed.
Yeah. Well, here's to all those people that you can't toast on two hands. Cheers.
Absolutely. Cheers. Okay. Thank you. Thank you so much, Fiona.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you all for coming in.
And thank you,
We have,
everybody, for joining us. It's wonderful.
yeah, we had 248 people.
Amazing. Amazing.
Thank
So
you all for your support.
yeah,
Would you
for
say? I'm
giving up
sorry.
an hour of your precious time. It's lovely.
Absolutely. We support each other and we support you. Thank you so much.
Amazing. Amazing. Yes.
All right. All right. Thank you all.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.